Not long ago, India wasn't on anyone's radar when it came to global SaaS innovation. Today, it is rewriting the rules, from powering customer support system for Fortune 500s to building critical API infrastructure used by developers worldwide. Indian startups are leading a software revolution. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I'm your host, Priya Dialani. Now, in 2023 alone, Indian SaaS startups generated more than $12 billion in revenue. And this is only the beginning, with projections pointing to $50 billion in revenue by 2030. India is poised to own nearly 10% of the global SaaS market. Let's welcome Mr. Avinash Godkhindi, co-promoter, MD, and CEO of Zaggle, to share insights around how SaaS in India is not a passing trend. It is a structural shift reshaping the global enterprise software landscape. Hi, Avinash, how are you doing?
I'm good, Priya. Thank you for having me on the show.
Great. It's a pleasure to have you on our podcast episode today, Avinash. And of course, we have been having a lot of discussions around the SaaS landscape, particularly in India. But I think today's discussion will be getting some more insights from you, some real world insights as to how we are navigating the challenges of the SaaS landscape, particularly with the digital transformation evolution, and how does the future look like. So let's start our discussion, and let's start by knowing more about Zaggle. So it would be great if you could, tell us more about the company, its organization, specialization.
So basically, we are a spend management company. We are a listed, profitable spend management company. Spend management as a space is fairly nascent in India. ERPs 30 years ago, HRMS 20 years ago, CRM 10 years ago were all relatively unknown. We believe in 10 years' time, spend management could be a fairly well understood category, and we want to be the name that gets associated with it, at least in India. Just like when people talk of ERPs, they think of SAP. You would want the same association to be there for Zaggle. So what spend management essentially does is to help a corporate digitize their spends across all major categories outside of budgeted capex. So anything to do with vendor payouts, anything to do with employee spends, anything to do with channel partner spends. All these spends are captured through a platform, a software platform, a SaaS platform, and we marry this through payment instruments issued by partner banks and create a full ecosystem solution for our enterprise and mid-market customers. So just to give you an example, think of any employee who's traveling from, say, Bangalore to Bombay. As she travels, most of the times while their tickets and hotels are booked, all other expenses, incidentals are borne by the employee. So right from hailing a cab to, the coffee at the airport to the meals that they have and any other incidentals, for each of these expenses today, in absence of a platform like Zaggle, the employee will end up incurring those spends, storing those receipts or bills, coming back to the base location, scanning those bills, and attaching those receipts via email or some rudimentary platform and sharing it to somebody in accounts, and then they manually verify whether these bills are correct or not. And the whole process is fairly broken. None of this information is validated through data sources. None of this gets, stored on a cloud, for example, in case there is a need 3 years, 5 years down the line for any tax inquiry, GST inquiry. And all of this is fairly standard in large organizations in India today. We disrupt this by bringing our software platform where the employee can scan all the receipts on the go. As she travels through the Zaggle app, we have optical character recognition, we have an AI/ML engine which is able to actually detect frauds, able to real-time reconcile this information against any card transactions that the employee does to make the journey really seamless for both the employee as well as the accounts or the finance team, which is going to process the reimbursement few days, right? So the whole journey is completely moved onto the cloud effectively, and all this data stays on the cloud for 10 plus years. So any receipts that need to be verified, anything that needs to be looked at in the future is a click of a button away.
Great. Thank you for that overview, Avinash. And it's evident that your focus, the company's focus, goes beyond just offering a product or a service. We are trying to build a solution that addresses tangible challenges while staying future ready in a rapidly evolving ecosystem. And the way you have combined domain expertise, technology, and a strong vision makes the entire journey particularly very compelling. With that foundation set for a conversation, I would love to dive a little deeper into your role, Avinash. You are an international fintech and payments leader with over 2 decades of experience in 12 countries across 5 continents. Quite an impressive journey, I must say. So, if you could tell us more about yourself, how has the journey been till date, and what exactly is your role at Zaggle today?
Yeah, so I think the role has evolved over the course of 14 years. When I joined the company as the CEO, the company was about 6 months old. And the labels may change, but essentially you're responsible for how the company is performing, right? And responsible to customers, responsible to shareholders, responsible to employees, responsible to the board. So that's largely how I would put it. So my journey has been quite eventful, I would say. I started off almost 25 years ago with Citi on the tech side, Citibank on the tech side, and traveled around the world as a consultant, a tech consultant, and then did my MBA at University of Chicago Booth School of Business, summers with Barclays in London, and then worked with Citi in the US for a brief while, and then came back and joined Citibank in India, where I launched and ran a credit card called Premier Miles. And post that, I did that for about 18 months in India and then jumped ship and joined Zaggle as the CEO. And the Zaggle journey, as I mentioned, has been full of exciting times. And of course, the big milestone was when we got listed in September 2023. And it's been an interesting time since then.
Lovely, Avinash. And I think with the changing times, I really like your point about how when you're taking up something with the changing times, your responsibilities, roles also evolve. And it kind of highlights the kind of thinking that is pretty much needed in today's fast changing landscape. Building on that, when talking about SaaS, I think over the last decade, the rise of software as a service has dramatically transformed both the software industry and the diverse enterprises it serves. As the pace of digital transformation and growth of cloud computing has accelerated, SaaS has rapidly become the software delivery model of choice and preferred alternative to legacy and on-premise products. Now, this paradigm shift to an on demand model, it kinds of opens a wealth of opportunities for new entrants and startups to make their mark in the sector. And India is one market particularly well positioned to help lead this charge. After a period of relative underinvestment, the SaaS industry of India is just coming into its own as a global demand for its offerings and is reaching new heights. So, India is often called the world's SaaS lab today. From your perspective, what key strengths positions India to lead the next global wave of enterprise SaaS innovation?
Yeah, I think great question, Priya. I think it's a simple demographic dividend. I think the focus that we have on computing and math skills really play an important role as you try and build more and more capacity. Of course, it helps that the world's language still is English, and we as Indians get, you know, the grounding in English as well. And I think beyond that, one thing very clearly has emerged is that there are certain regions in the world which get associated with certain capabilities, and that has possibly to do with the DNA of those countries' workforces, not literally the DNA, but certainly, for example, manufacturing, we associate with China. Similarly, technology, even the global giants today, the CEOs of global companies, many of the large tech companies like Google, Microsoft, Adobe, bunch of these companies are folks of Indian origin. So somewhere that belief, that association has come, and that, India has the capability to be able to deliver high quality SaaS products, software products, solutions to the world. And I think the model of building in India and building for the world is a great model because you also get the cost arbitrage. All said and done, even today, India is less expensive than some of the Western markets, and the quality and the depth of talent that you can get in India has only grown over the years. So I think a lot of these factors sort of come together. I think the biggest thing is just the belief that yes, we as a nation are capable of delivering extremely high quality, SaaS products to the global audience with the success of Indian SaaS companies on the global stage in the past, I'd say decade or so, really has made a difference.
Definitely, Avinash, and I think with we're also seeing maturity in Indian founders and product leaders, and the focus has clearly shifted from building features to building more durable enterprise grade products with strong security, compliance, and scale. All of them baked in from day one. With that in mind, I would love to build on this conversation and talk about the security and compliance aspect with regards to the SaaS industry. For decades, I think SaaS providers have lived and died by one magic number: uptime. 99% availability became the gold standard for enterprise customers. So if the app was online, the SLA was met and the vendor's job was done. But in 2025 and in coming years, uptime alone is not enough because enterprises aren't just buying software that works, they are buying software that delivers experiences. And that shift is forcing SaaS companies to rethink what their service level agreements really mean. And with that in picture, CIOs and CTOs are also focusing on outcomes, faster decisions, smoother operations, better user adoption. So, if your SaaS undermines those outcomes because it's up but unusable, the renewal is definitely is at risk. So many Indian SaaS firms struggle with enterprise grade SLAs and global uptime commitments. What operational capabilities must they build to truly serve international enterprises?
Again, a great question, Priya. I think the single biggest learning that we have had because we largely serve enterprise customers, is that it's better to have two features less, but not to use any, sort of shortcuts is a very strong word, but not to compromise on the integrity of the platform in terms of security, in terms of uptime, in terms of all the things that happen beneath the hood, right? It's very critical to get those plumbing infrastructure sort of pieces, nuts and bolts, completely stitched up and wired. Because when you scale, that's the nature of enterprise businesses. When there is scale, these are the pieces which take the strain. And if they are not designed carefully, that strain is definitely going to show in the customer experience and the user experience. So I think at the design stage, think through the architecture to be built for an enterprise grade solution. Make sure that those extra safeguards are put in place to be able to take that extra load, extra push. The other thing that's going to happen in a big way is AI is coming in. Big way it has. And as solutions are designed for customers today, a lot of that has to be factored in and saying, how is the customer expectation going to change in the coming months and years? And where all can you leverage AI to be able to create a wow experience? Some of the things that were just not possible a few years ago are today, reality. So how can you incorporate those pieces to take the conversation away from uptime and SLAs and all this to create a really, sustainable and significant wow is the way to go. Because the other thing is going to happen as more and more, especially on the enterprise side, with AI coming in, more and more customers are also going to try and see, can we build this using a hyper build model on AI ourselves, right? Or can we completely create a custom application ourselves? So the responsibility is going to come in on SaaS companies to create a fairly sophisticated experience so that a corporate or an enterprise doesn't want to try and build this, in some ways back to the future, try and build it in-house or to outsource it to somebody to build it for them, but to really be able to give a very sophisticated experience to make sure that they continue to work with you.
Completely agree with you, Avinash. And I think we really need enterprise readiness. And it is not a technology challenge, it's more like an operational mindset shift. And for Indian SaaS companies, moving from serving fast moving startups to global enterprises, they definitely need and require a lot of building muscle in areas like reliability, accountability, and consistencies. And I think SLAs aren't just contractual checkboxes, they are a promise of business continuity for customers operating across time zones specifically and peak usage cycles. Now, thank you for breaking this down so clearly, Avinash. And I would want to shift gears to the security aspect of the SaaS industry today, because the criticality of SaaS security has grown exponentially as organizations transfer increasing amount of sensitive data to the cloud environments. So, I mean, up till point, we understand that India's SaaS revolution is accelerating, and its SME ecosystem has become the world's most dynamic testing ground for globally scalable products. With millions of digital first small businesses, many from tier 2 and tier 3 cities, Indian founders are forced to build software that is simple, intuitive, affordable, and pretty much frictionless to adopt. This kind of market pressure is shaping resilient business models and AI driven innovation for that matter. So, as the Indian SaaS companies are, ramping up their efforts and scaling globally, security becomes a major inflection point, I believe. What are some of the biggest security challenges you think these Indian companies are facing today when entering mature markets like the US and Europe? And how do you think they can balance innovation velocity with robust security practices?
Yeah, ultimately, cybersecurity threats are only going to keep increasing as time goes because there's a higher degree of sophistication that is being enabled again through AI and other technologies. And unfortunately, Priya, the way the world works, the first people to adopt and adapt newer technologies and newer ways of doing things invariably are the folks who are wanting to misuse it. It's again one of those scenarios where it's both a threat and an opportunity because it's an opportunity because if you're able to really create a very robust ecosystem and provide that level of security, companies are going to turn around and especially mid-market companies and SMBs are going to realize that they can't do that in-house. They're much better off keeping their data with you on the cloud because you're going to be able to safeguard it. Some of the regulation and laws that are coming in, like GDPR in Europe, DPDP Act in India, also puts a tremendous amount of responsibility and accountability on companies who collect this data on behalf of their customers, right? So if I was a company which was sitting with tons of data of my consumers, would I prefer to work with a very reliable SaaS partner who knows what it is doing and has a track record of keeping the data very safe versus trying to do that in house? I think it's a no brainer. So it's both an opportunity, but the threat, of course, is very real. The complexity and the scale at which some of these threats are emerging are just mind boggling. I mean, we've all read stories of, fake video calls to CFOs from an AI generated image and voice, which is of the CEO, and the CFO going ahead and transferring money to an unknown account. So these are stories which are real, which have happened on a global basis. And I think those are things which you need to be able to, cover for. Now, the way we look at it is we use this particular instance. I think this had happened in Hong Kong a few years ago. And when we spoke to our customers, we said, look, this is happening because the payments being processed outside of a spend management platform, outside of the guardrails that we put in terms of approvals, etc., simply basis a Zoom call. And this is the kind of thing that we prevent through our platform, where if the same instruction for payment transfer had come through from the CEO's login onto the platform with all the approvals. The limits are already in place for the CEO not to be able to approve something like this without the board's approval. Deploying the spend management platform to be able to put in the limits, put in the policies, put in the checks would safeguard everybody. So those are the benefits of a system, a SaaS platform. But at the same time, the SaaS companies themselves need to be on top of their game to make sure that their systems are not compromised. Otherwise, the whole, the sales pitch falls off.
Definitely, I think that was a pretty insightful perspective, and I really liked your point. Like the first people to adapt anything new are the folks who really want to misuse it. And with Indian SaaS companies and entering such mature markets, trust becomes a very, very core pillar, and security is definitely not just a back-end checklist today. So, whether we are dealing with regulations or customer expectations around data privacy, I think the bar is fundamentally higher for Indian companies. And I think security first thinking is no longer a constraint on innovation, but an enabler of credibility and long-term scale. And getting this balance, right balance of security and scaling innovation, I think there could be that with a difference between short-term traction and sustainable global leadership. Moving ahead, so of course, when we talk about the Indian landscape, SaaS platforms today rely heavily on automation or AI-driven innovations to detect threats and prevent fraud. And without governance, I think AI in these platforms may create blind spots or unintended consequences. Now, for example, if an AI driven access system makes flawed decisions, it could lock out legitimate users or allow unauthorized access. So that's where we need a responsible AI governance model for SaaS platform which prevents such outcomes and which eventually aligns AI tools with ethical and regulatory standards. So customers today expect AI native SaaS products. How do you think the Indian SaaS companies are at a position right now where they can integrate AI responsibly? And what support or ecosystem collaboration you think is still missing in India today?
The fundamental thing is there a human in the loop, as they say in the AI world, right? Because AI decisions, AI actions need to be monitored. We will move from human in the loop to human on the loop in the coming years, where today the system or the platforms are capable of AI being the maker, so to say, and requiring a checker from a human to check those actions or those decisions. To agentic AI taking it to a stage in the coming months and years where you just need a human to just overall monitor the platform and just look at the analytics and data and not be present there for every decision or every action to be sort of validated as a checker. That's the direction in which the ecosystem is moving. I think there's a lot that's already happening in India. Having said that, countries like the US and China clearly have a head start in the AI race, which is okay because the AI era or the AI revolution is going to last a few decades. It's not going to be something that's going to go away in a few months, and hence it's a long term game. I think India obviously has the advantage that we have a very diverse data set, and we all know that AI requires lots and lots of data and diverse data to be able to become efficient and become more reliable. So we will need to play to our strengths. I think there's a lot of collaboration already happening. Some of the best educational institutions in India are collaborating with industry. I just completed a discussion today with a company called Sarvam. Sarvam is an AI company building the first sovereign AI platform in India, backed by the Indian government and some of the best investors in the world, Lightspeed, Sequoia, Peak 15 and others are investors in Sarvam. And also, they have an investment from Government of India. So there's a lot of public-private collaboration that's happening, and things are actually happening at phenomenal speed in India as well. So there's those conversations, those opportunities coming in. What's more important is for a lot of the private enterprise to realize that the AI opportunity is staring in our face and not to look at short term goals and to compromise on the investment. That's critical, I believe.
Definitely, and I think this balance between speed and safeguards is not easy, but it's also becoming non-negotiable for leaders who want to win long-term enterprise trust. And with regulations evolving globally, companies that invest early in such responsible frameworks will be far better positioned for what's coming next. And definitely, I think we are witnessing the Indian ecosystem to scale, more public and private collaborations happening. So we anticipate that more global companies originating from the Indian markets will take over the lead of innovation globally in the SaaS landscape. So looking ahead, what will define India's next generation of SaaS unicorns, Avinash?
It's hard to look beyond AI. I think the ones which are really able to leverage AI and make sure that that they are AI first in their design would make a huge difference because that's where the world has moved. It's not moving. And it's very important for Indian companies to keep up pace to stay relevant. The other thing, of course, is I think the time has come for Indian companies to really start downplaying the cost arbitrage. I think cost arbitrage has also gone down quite a lot given the cost of living in India today. But even otherwise, I think the cost arbitrage has, sort of done us good, but also has done us some harm because of the positioning that it has provided us. And to start positioning India as a nation of phenomenal innovation and creativity. Google innovation, yes, but it is innovation and not jugaad. So that's, I think, very critical as to how we perceive ourselves and how we position ourselves as a nation of innovators capable of delivering some mind-boggling solutions to customers around the world. And I think that with the backbone of AI can really be the disruption for Indian SaaS companies. We shouldn't necessarily play too much on the cost arbitrage, whether cost arbitrage is there, but it's not going to last for long because the standard of living in India continues to grow every single day. So, we should focus more on our capability to provide great innovation leveraging AI.
Definitely, I think the India's journey from services to products is not just a transformation story, it is a blueprint for global enterprise software. And the message is clear: India is not only building for the world, it is shaping the future of enterprise technology. So the question is no longer can Indian firms build this? It is what will they build next? Well, thank you so much, Avinash, for taking out the time and effort to be on a podcast today and helping us understand that India's SaaS industry overall has moved from curiosity to credibility, and it's now on the brink of dominance. The next decade will determine whether India becomes a global SaaS hub or remains a fast growing contributor. But I think all signs point to a sustainable revolution. Thank you so much, Avinash, for your insights. It was lovely talking with you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So, this is for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and discussion around the SaaS landscape, particularly in the Indian vertical, and how does the future look like. Stay tuned for our upcoming podcast episodes. Meanwhile, you can view all our previous episodes on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.